Well, hello there. How you doing? We're going to look a little bit at musical style period, genre, and instrumentation today. And we're going to do so in a way that kind of helps clarify a common misunderstanding for classes that have taken this course in the past. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to think about a specific kind of store. We'll get to that in just a second. So, style, instrumentation, and genre. In music appreciation, we will be discovering musical style periods, and that would be the Renaissance, Baroque, Classical, Romantic, and 1900s and beyond style periods. We'll be talking about common instrumentations, common forces that are used in these style periods. And we're going to be talking also about genres, and it's really genres that is the source of a lot of confusion for some people. Now, the distinction between these three ideas can be difficult to understand, so let's have an analogy. So, I want you to think about a record store. You walk into a record store, how are they typically organized? What sections do you normally find in a music store? Stop for just a second and think about that. You walk into a music store, you know the artist you want to find, and you know to find that artist, you need to probably find a correct section. Yes? Okay, so think about what those sections might be in a music store. Now, let's say you find your record, you find your CD or your 8-track or your cassette. On that CD are songs, and those songs use different instruments. What instruments are used in each song? Are there differences in instrument choice based on what section the record is in? Now think about that for just a second. If you go to one section, are you more likely to hear a certain kind of instrument than if you're in another section? Are there some instruments or sounds that are peculiar to a particular section of the store? Think about that for a little bit. Finally, as you look through the songs on this record, what kind of songs are on there? What are they about? Do they have a common theme? Are there different types of songs you normally run across in a typical album? So pause for just a minute and think about those things. What are the sections in a record store? What kind of instruments are used on a record? And is that influenced by what section of the store it's in? And what kind of songs are on the records? All right, so let's think about this a little bit more. I want you to get out 7 index cards or 7 pieces of paper. We're just going to keep track of 7 of your favorite songs. All right? Now, for each song, I want you to think, what section in the record store would I go to find this song? Think about that for a second. Also, for each song, what instruments are used? Okay, and now as you look at the song, what kind of song is it? Is it a love song? Is it a breakup song? Is it a party song? Is it a tailgate song? Is it a let's get pumped up song? What kind of song is it? All right, now pause the video and finish up your 7 songs. And while you do that, I'm going to do it too. Okay, I'm going to stop with 4, and let me just tell you what I've done. Okay, I'll go through these, and you can agree or disagree. I have Zac Brown Band, and the song is Knee Deep in the Water Somewhere, if you know that song. In the record store, I would find that probably in the country section of the record store. Instruments. It has guitar, fiddle, mandolin, bass, drums, and voices. There may be some others. I'd have to go back and listen a little bit more carefully. And the type of song. I struggled with this one. There's kind of this beach lifestyle type of song that you get a lot from, say, Jimmy Buffett or Zac Brown. He's got several beach type songs. So I might call that a lifestyle song. There's several of those. This one would be a lifestyle song that's related to the beach. So that would be Zac Brown. Country section. Now, you'll notice that fiddle and mandolin are not common instruments in other sections of this record store. Fiddle and mandolin are kind of a clue to me that this song is probably in the country section. All right. Then I have Journey, Open Arms. I would say that you would find this album in the pop section, the popular section. Maybe rock, but probably more pop. It has drums, guitar, bass, and voices. And it's a love song, right? Some kind of a reunion type love song. Then I have Billy Joel, Allentown. It's one of my favorites. It features, of course, piano, because Billy Joel. It has piano, bass, drums, guitar. There's also a fun little hammer sound that's in the percussion. That's like a hammer on steel, because this is about steel mills in Pennsylvania. I would find that in the pop section. And this type of song is kind of historical retrospective. We're talking about a time in history and setting the scene for that time in history, kind of a social commentary on a time in American history. Days of old, maybe. That would be the type of song that it is. And then another one of my favorite songs is by Fish. It's You Enjoy Myself. And you know, I'm not really sure where I would find this in the record store. It's in one of those alternative type genres. It's not really pop. It's not really jazz. It's not really rock. It's kind of a jam band. I don't know if there's a jam band section. So that might be considered indie. It might be considered alternative. I'd probably have to ask somebody where to find that. It's a weird kind of I'm not sure what section of the music store it'd be in. And the instrumentation is piano and synthesizer, drum, lead guitar, bass guitar, and of course voices. And this is another one that's kind of weird. What kind of song is this? Well, it's kind of a implied Journey song. Not Journey the band, but Journey is in taking a trip somewhere. There's several different sections in the song, and it's got some weird doggerel lyrics that are quasi-Italian. I'm not really sure what kind of song this is. It's a fun song. Maybe you would call it a dance song or not really sure. It's unclear. Okay, so hopefully you've done the same with your 7 cards. Now, let's return to this analogy. And remember, this is analogy, so it's not exact. But you can think of the section in your musical store as kind of like a musical style period for classical music. For example, if you wanted to find the works of a certain composer, you would have to know what style period that composer lived in. If I'm looking for Bach, I need to go to the Baroque section of my music store. If I'm looking for Brahms, I need to go to the Romantic section of my classical music store. Does that make sense? So in our analogy, the section of the store is kind of like the musical style period. Instruments used in your songs, well, that's instrumentation, right? And instrumentation can be peculiar to a section. Just like we said, it's not common to hear a fiddle outside of the country music section in the record store. Well, it's really not that common to hear a harpsichord outside of the Baroque music store, Baroque section in the music store. Does that make sense? But then there are a lot of times where the instrumentation can be the same. It's really common to have a band made up of a lead guitar, a rhythm guitar, a bass guitar, and drums. That's a very common instrumentation. And you can have a country music band that has that instrumentation. You can have a rock band that has that instrumentation. You can have a pop band that has that instrumentation, right? So instrumentation is not necessarily exclusive to a certain style period or a certain section of the record store. Now here we come to type of song. And this is sort of the analogy that I really wanted to make. Let's think about the types of songs you may have written on your note cards. You may have had a love song. Well, you can have a love song in a country album. You can have a love song in a rock album. You can have a love song in a pop album. You can have a love song in a jazz album. You can have a love song in an alternative section album. You can have a love song in a hip hop album, right? Love songs are kind of ubiquitous, okay? A breakup song, same thing. You can have breakup songs across these different sections in your music store. So, the type of song is kind of like a genre. But you have to remember that in classical music, sometimes genres are defined by the instrumentation. For example, a string quartet is a genre of classical music, and it is defined by its instrumentation. It has two violins, a viola, and a cello. And that's what defines a string quartet. But there are other times where the instrumentation may inform, but not exactly tell you the genre. If you have a full orchestra, it may indeed be a symphony, or it may be a tone poem. Okay? Now, it's going to be a symphony if it's in the style period of classical music, because we didn't develop the tone poem until the Romantic era. Does this make sense to you? Okay. And also remember that the same genre can appear in multiple style periods. There is opera in the Baroque style period. There is opera in the classical style period. There is opera in the Romantic style period. There's opera in the modern style period. Just like there are love songs in the country section, there are love songs in the hip hop section, there are love songs in the pop section. Okay? So, the other difference between in our analogy is that the musical style periods are bound by history. Okay? They are sequential. Baroque is first, and then classical, and then Romantic, and then 1900s and beyond. Now, the lines aren't cut and dry. That's kind of a gradient between those at the transition periods, but they are based historically. In our analogy, our musical sections all come from the same time period. Again, it's an analogy, so you're going to have to kind of think through it a little bit. Okay, I hope you found this helpful, and we have some questions coming up later. Make sure you answer those questions. There's some food for thought in another section over there, and then the discussion board. So I hope you enjoy this video, and let's see how you did.